"Mom, go find somewhere else to die. You're no use to us anymore." That's what my only daughter said to me in the middle of the living room I'd vacuumed every Saturday for 38 years. I zipped my suitcase, like the obedient mother I'd always been, and walked out of my own front door. 3 days later, I was sitting in a lawyer's office, finding out my loving late husband had played the longest game of chess I'd ever seen, and my little Princess Lily was about to learn what happens when you mistake the pawn for the queen and forget who's really been playing the board. If you're watching this, subscribe, tap the bell, and tell me what city or country you're listening from in the comments. Because I went from homeless widow to the woman holding every single card on the cable. And trust me, this story has more twists than the phone cord in your grandma's kitchen.
My name is Helen Marshall. I'm 66 years old. 2 months ago, if you'd asked who I was, I would have said, wife of David Marshall for 43 years, mother to 1 daughter, Lily, and Nana to 2 little tornadoes who colored on my walls and stole my heart. I was the one who remembered birthdays, kept the freezer full, and knew everyone's favorite casserole. I learned how David liked his shirts ironed, how Lily liked her toast cut, how the grandkids liked their sandwiches shaped. If you'd really pressed me, I probably would have shrugged and said, "Oh, I'm just the wife, just the mom." I didn't know those words would almost cost me everything.
The morning David died, we were arguing about coffee filters. He liked the cheap paper kind. I liked the reusable mesh. He said I was wasting money. I said he was wasting trees. I turned around to rinse a mug, and when I had looked back, his hand was on his chest, his face a color I'd never seen before. The paramedic said all the things they say in all the shows you've seen. "Stay back, ma'am. We're doing everything we can. I'm so sorry." After the funeral, the house filled with people and food and noise that didn't touch the silence in my chest. Lily swept in from the city, perfect black dress, perfect hair, perfectly controlled tears. "Mom," she whispered, hugging me just tight enough, "you must be devastated." The word sounded like a diagnosis, not compassion. Behind her stood Eric, her husband. Expensive watch, polished shoes, the faint smell of cologne and confidence. He shook my hand like I was a client. For a while, Lily was an angel. "Mom, sit. I'll take care of that. Mom, you don't worry about the paperwork. Mom, you shouldn't be alone right now." I believed her. That was my first mistake.
The shift was small at first. We were at the kitchen table, the same table where Lily did her homework and David paid our bills, when she slid a brochure towards me. On the cover, Ashwood Springs, luxury independent living for active seniors. She said gently, "Mom, have you thought about next steps?" "I thought my next step was making dinner," I answered. She smiled that careful little smile people use with small children and old dogs. "Be serious. This house is huge. The spares, the yard, the maintenance. You can't possibly manage this by yourself. It's not safe." Safe. That word again. She started calling it our house. Our house would sell for a fortune. Our house is too much for you alone.
If we moved here, we could really take care of the place. Each R landed like a pebble in my shoe. I noticed she spent more time looking at the walls and ceilings than in me. Eric started bringing real estate pamphlets, retirement community brochures, budget spreadsheets. You'd have friends your own age, Lily cooed. Activities, no responsibilities. What she meant was no claim, no keys, no complications. But I was grieving. I was tired. I told myself they were trying to help. That was my second mistake.
6 weeks after the funeral, I was still sleeping in the guest room. I couldn't bear to pack up the bedroom David and I had shared. His slippers still sat under the bed. His robe still hung on the hook. His book lay open to page 213. One Tuesday afternoon, Lily arrived without knocking. She walked in like she owned the place. Eric followed, carrying 2 large suitcases. My stomach dropped. "Mom," Lily said brightly, "we've made a decision." "We?" I asked. "Eric got promoted," she said. "We need to move out of our tiny apartment. This house is perfect for us. Better schools, more space for the kids. And you," she sighed, the kind of pity sigh you hear in hospital corridors, "you can find something more suitable, something easier." "Suitable for what?" I asked. "For where you're at in life." She lowered her voice. "You're 66, Mom. These stairs are a hazard. You shouldn't be mowing lawns or worrying about leaks. You can't possibly keep up with our house." "Our house?" I repeated. "Actually, Mom, it's not yours anymore. According to Dad's will, everything came to me. The house, the accounts, all of it. You've just been," she smiled, "squatting in my future." The world tilted. "That can't be right," I whispered. "Your father wouldn't." "Dad knew I'd take better care of his legacy than you ever could," she snapped. "You never understood money, Mom. You were just the wife." 43 years reduced to 3 little words. I felt something inside me crack. "Lily," I said softly, "this is my home." She looked at me like a stubborn tenant. "Not anymore. I've been letting you stay here out of kindness, but it's time for you to find your own place." The room went very, very quiet. Then she gave me the killing blow. "Mom, go find somewhere else to die. You're no use to us now." For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. Eric looked away, studying a spot on the floor. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I didn't throw her words back at her. I did what I'd always done. I obeyed.
I packed in a fog. 1 suitcase for clothes, 1 for the important things, David's letters, our wedding album, Lily's kindergarten drawings, a cardboard box for framed photos that didn't fit. Lily washed from the hallway, checking her watch. Eric carried my bags to the car with the brisk politeness you'd give a stranger. They drove me to a budget motel off the highway called the Sunset Motor Inn. The neon sign flickered. The T in Sunset was burnt out, so it just said Sunset Inn.
The room smelled faintly of mildew and old smoke. The carpet had a floral pattern so faded, it looked like the flowers had given up too. The vending machine hummed louder than the guests. The plastic ice bucket smelled like it remembered every cigarette anyone had ever put out in it. My whole life was now 2 suitcases and 1 sad little key card. Lily pressed $200 bills into my hand like she was tipping housekeeping. This should cover you for a few days while you get settled. There's a Singer complex on Maple Street. Very affordable. I'm sure they have openings. Affordable. I'd been married to her father for 43 years. He worked 50-hour weeks. We skipped vacations, drove used cars, clipped coupons. And now my daughter was sending me to affordable housing like an unwanted cat left behind a supermarket. Eric will transfer some money once we sort through Dad's paperwork, she added. Some money from my own life. The door closed behind them. The car drove off. I sat on the sagging mattress and stared at the peeling wallpaper. For a while, I thought, this is it. This is how I disappear. I fade away in room 16 of the Sunsin, while my daughter paints my kitchen a color I'll never see. Then, because grief has terrible timing, another voice pushed its way in. David's.
6 months before he died, David had sat me down at our kitchen table with a pot of coffee and a stack of papers. "Lenny," he said, he'd called me that since high school, "these are the important documents. If anything ever happens to me, you go see Mark Delaney. You know him, our lawyer." He tapped an envelope. "This is the will. I've put everything in writing, so you don't have to deal with Lily's dramatics or Eric's ideas." I said, "David, Lily loves me." He'd gone quiet, his eyes doing that thing where they saw 10 years ahead. "She loves you," he said, "the way she knows how. But she loves money and status too. I've seen the way she talks about inheritances, about what's going to be mine. I've seen the way Eric looks at this house." He took my hand across the table. "So listen carefully, Lenny. Do not sign anything you don't understand. Don't let anyone rush you. And if something happens to me, you go straight to Mark. Not Lily, not Eric. Mark. Promise me?" I promised. Then life went on. We argued about coffee filters. We watched crime dramas and made fun of the plots. And I filed the conversation away under later. Sitting on that motel bed, it came all back at once. Mark Delaney, the will, the promise. And another thought, clear as a bell. David would never leave me with nothing. If Lily was telling the truth, David had betrayed me. If David was who I knew he was, my daughter was lying. Either way, I needed the truth. The next morning, I took $10 from my tip money, bought a bus ticket, and rode downtown, clutching my purse like a lifeline.
Mark Delaney's office was on the 10th floor of a glass building. The elevator ride felt like my stomach was being hauled up on a rope. The receptionist recognized me. "Mrs. Marshall," she said, startled. "We've been trying to reach you for weeks. Miss Hayes told us you were traveling." I apparently was, just not where she said. She didn't know whether to laugh. She ushered me into Mark's office. He stood up so fast, his chair rolled back. "Helen," he said, "I expected to see you days after the funeral."
I said, Lily told me David left everything to her. Sitting down. She moved into the house. She gave me $200 and told me to find somewhere else to die. Mark stared at me. That's not possible, he said. He opened a file drawer, pulled out a thick folder, labeled Marshall Will Updated. He laid it on the desk. I recognized David's handwriting on the notes in the margins. His signature at the bottom. He began to read. I, David Allen Marshall, being of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath to my beloved wife, Helen Grace Marshall, our primary residence at 14 Maple Ridge Lane, including all furnishings and contents. My house, my furniture, not Lily's. In addition, 70% of all liquid assets, retirement accounts, and investments. He glanced up. At the time he signed this, that was worth a little over $22 million. My mouth went dry. 22 what? We lived comfortably, but we never lived like that. He kept reading. To my daughter, Lily Marshall Hayes, I leave $10 million to be held in trust with distributions beginning on her 45th birthday. He slowed down. Contingent on her treatment of her mother following my death. He turned the page. If, in the judgment of my attorney and trustee, my daughter fails to treat my mother with respect, support, and basic human dignity in the 3 years following my death, her entire inheritance shall revert to my wife, Helen. The room swam for a moment. So if Lily, I swallowed, if Lily treats me badly, I get everything? Mark folded his hands. Helen, he said, based on what you've told me about the motel, the $200, the fake will, yes, she's already violated the condition in spectacular fashion. He pulled out another document. These are the papers Lily had you look at? I nodded. He held them up to the light, then weighed them beside the real will. He said the formatting is close, but the signatures, I can tell you without a lab, these were not signed by David. He picked up his phone. Detective Morales, please?
Detective Anna Morales from Financial Crimes arrived 20 minutes later. Short, focused, with a stare that made even Mark sit straighter. She examined Lily's fake will, asked me questions, took careful notes. When I finished telling her about the eviction, the motel, the $200, she sat back. Helen, she said, what your daughter did is not just a family issue. It's elder financial abuse, fraud, and attempted theft of a large estate. The word abuse hung in the air. We don't like that word, do we? We say complicated relationship, or she's under stress, or he doesn't mean it. We don't want to admit our own children can abuse us. That's not respect, Anna said quietly. That's abuse. She let the words sit there. You don't have to press charges, she added. That's your choice. But you do have the right to. David's voice echoed in my head. Paper's power. Don't sign anything you don't understand. I looked at the real will, at the fake one, at my shaking hands. What happens if I do press charges? I asked. Then your daughter learns that her mother is not as powerless as she thought.
By late afternoon, the banks had frozen every account with David's name on it. Utility transfers Lily had tried to push through were reversed. Certain credit cards stopped working. At 3:47 p.m., Lily's name lit up my phone. I put the call on speaker, and Anna quietly hit record. "Mom," Lily snapped, "where are you? The bank says Dad's accounts are frozen. My card got declined. What did you do?" "I'm at Mark Delaney's office," I said. Silence. "Why?" she demanded. "I wanted to hear the will from someone who passed math without cheating," I replied. She sucked in a breath. "Mom, listen." She shifted into her soft voice. "I know this is confusing. You're grieving. You're not thinking clearly. I was only trying to simplify things for you." "Lily," I cut in, "Daddy updated his will because he was worried about your attitude towards money. He left me the house and 70% of everything. He left you $10 million on the condition that you treat me with respect. He made Mark the judge of whether you did. I told Mark what you did." She cracked. "You told him that? Mom, you're blowing this out of proportion. We were just trying to help you transition." "Transition?" I repeated. "From homeowner to motel guest?" "That's not fair," she snapped. "We have kids. We have responsibilities. I thought you loved your grandchildren. Do you really want them to see their parents lose everything?" There it was. The guilt card, played face up. "Lily, Dad built this will like a chessboard. You thought you were the queen, but you just marched your greedy little pawn straight into checkmate." "You can't do this to us," she shouted. "We have plans. We were counting on—" "No, sweetheart," I said, my voice suddenly very calm. "You did this to yourself. Dad just wrote down what would happen if you did." And for the first time in my life, I hung up on my daughter. Mark let out a long breath. "In 35 years of practice," he said, "that may be the most satisfying phone call I've ever heard." That evening, Detective Morales drove me back to my house. The porch light was on. Through the front window, I could see Lily's designer purse on my entry table and Eric's laptop open on my coffee table. Anna knocked. Eric opened the door, eyes narrowing when he saw me. "Helen," he said cautiously. "Mr. Hayes," Anna replied, flashing her badge. "Mrs. Marshall is the legal owner and resident of this property. You and your wife have 24 hours to remove your personal belongings. Any attempt to access David Marshall's accounts or alter estate documents will result in additional charges." Anna appeared behind him, hair messy, mascara smudged. "You called the police on me?" she hissed. "You kicked me out of my own home," I said. "Seems like we're finally even. I'm your daughter. And you are the person who told your mother to go find somewhere else to die." She flinched. Eric stepped forward. "Let's not say things we can't take back," he said smoothly. "You already did," Anna replied. She handed him a packet. "These outline the investigation and what you are forbidden to touch. I strongly suggest you read them." The next morning, they were gone.
No more toys in the yard, no more car in the driveway. Just black garbage bags on the porch, full of clothes Lily thought she'd wear in her new house. That night, I slept in my own bed. David wasn't there, but his pillow was. And for the first time since he'd fallen on our kitchen floor, I felt a tiny sliver of safety. It didn't last long, because the next problem was hiding in his study.
A few days later, Mark called. "There's one more thing we need to be sure of," he said. "Please don't say David had a secret second family." I choked weakly. He didn't laugh. "I've asked a forensic accountant to review David's business records. If Lily and Eric try to defend themselves by accusing David of wrongdoing, we need to know what they might have seen." That's how Grace Chen ended up in David's old study. Small, sharp-eyed, and absolutely fearless. She spent hours surrounded by files and spreadsheets. I brought her coffee. I told her what I knew about David's consulting work, which was not much. "He helped companies," I said, "with money things. He'd try to explain it sometimes. I usually changed the subject." After a while, she called me in. "There are a lot of companies here," she said, tapping a list. "Names with no offices, no employees, just bank accounts. On paper, this could make your husband's business look like it's washing money." My head spun. "Are you saying David was a criminal?" I whispered. She answered carefully. "I'm saying that someone, say your son-in-law, went digging without understanding the context. They might found a gold mine of leverage. Something they could take to the government and use to bargain." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. "Lily." "Mom?" she said, her voice smaller than I'd heard in years. "We need to talk. There are things about Dad's business you don't understand. Things that could change everything. Can we meet?" "I already know," I said quietly. Silence. "You know what?" she asked. "I know enough," I replied. "Come by the house tomorrow at 8. When I hung up, Grace and Vark exchanged a look. We need backup. Real backup.
The next morning, I sat in a beige conference room inside a federal building across from Agent Nina Alvarez. She looked exactly like someone who had heard every excuse and believed none of them. "Mrs. Marshall," she said, turning on a recorder, "you understand that by coming here voluntarily, you may be admitting you benefited from money that appears suspicious on paper." "I understand," I said. "I also understand I'd rather tell you the truth than let my daughter and her husband twist it first." I told her everything. Lily's eviction speech, the motel, the will, the fake documents, Grace's findings. When I finished, she slid a folder toward me. "We've been aware of your husband's company for some time," she said. My heart dropped. "David was in trouble?" I asked. "Not exactly," she replied. "For the past 12 years, David Marshall has been working with us as a confidential informant inside a corporate money laundering network. He wasn't laundering for criminals. He was helping us catch them." I stared. My David, I managed. The man who fell asleep during the opening credits of every thriller we ever watched? She nodded. He used his consulting firm as cover. When certain transactions came through, he brought us information. Your husband helped us build cases that led to dozens of arrests. I grabbed the edge of the table. And the money? I asked. The accounts? The money in your name, she said clearly, is a combination of his legitimate income and compensation the government approved for his cooperation. It's been taxed. It's been cleared. Legally, it's yours. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. So Lily and Eric, I said slowly, think they found evidence he was dirty, when what they've actually found is evidence he was helping us? She finished. They think it's a weapon. It's not. She folded her hands. We were aware your daughter and son-in-law were sniffing around. We were waiting to see who came to us first. You did. So now we're asking, are you willing to help us record their attempt to use your husband's work to extort you? I knew what she meant. You want me to wear a wire? I said. Yes, she replied. Your daughter thought you were a pawn. This is your chance to show her you've become the queen.
At 7:30 that night, Agent Alvarez taped a tiny recording device under my blouse. Just act natural, she said. I haven't felt natural since the paramedics left my kitchen, I answered. She actually smiled. She and 3 other agents waited in the hallway, out of sight. At exactly 8, Lily and Eric pulled into the driveway. No flashy car this time, a rental sedan. They came in dressed like they were going to a business meeting. Lily kissed my cheek. Mom, you look good, she said. Better than when you were at the motel. I stopped sleeping on mystery stains. It helps. Eric set a briefcase on the coffee table, like he was unveiling a product. Helen, he began. We've spoken to several attorneys. There's a way for all of us to walk away from this without destruction. He opened the briefcase and took out a neat stack of papers. You keep the house and $5 million and clean assets. In return, we all present a united story about David's business. You drop any charges against us. We go to the government together and corroborate at what David was doing. They seize the rest. Everyone moves on. Mom, please, Lily added quickly, we're trying to protect you. Your heart, your meds. Do you really think you can handle years of stress? We're saving you from being dragged through all this. I stared at my daughter. So, let me get this straight, I said slowly. Your plan is you forge my husband's will, throw me out of my home, steal my bank accounts, get caught, and now you want me to give up most of my inheritance and testify with you against my dead husband so you can avoid prison? Eric frowned. That's a very emotional framing. We're talking about legal realities. And what do you get? I asked. He leaned back. We avoid prosecution, he said smoothly. The fraud case disappears. Our reputations remain intact. The grandchildren aren't traumatized by their parents going to prison. Everyone wins something. Everyone except David. And the truth. Eric's mouth tightened. Helen, I strongly advise against antagonizing the only people who know how to keep you out of an orange jumpsuit. I smiled. Funny, I replied.
Agent Nina Alvarez said almost the exact same thing. They both froze. You were to the FBI? Lily whispered. Yes. I said this morning I sat in their office. I told them everything. Do you know what they told me? No one answered. They told me my husband wasn't laundering money for criminals. He was working with them to catch criminals. He was their man on the inside. I leaned forward. All that explosive information you thought you had, it's proof he helped the good guys. The money you're trying to bargain with, completely legal, completely mine. Eric lurched to his feet, reaching for the briefcase. This conversation is over. Actually, I said, raising my voice just enough. I think it's just beginning. Agent Alvarez stepped into the room. Bad flashing. Lily Marshall Hayes. Eric Hayes, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, forgery, elder financial abuse, and attempted extortion of the federal witness. The other agents moved in with calm efficiency. Lily stared at me, eyes wide, color draining from her face. Mom, how can you do this to your own family? I stood up. You forged my husband's name. You stole my house. You left me at a motel with $200 and told me to go find somewhere else to die. I'm not doing anything to you, Lily. I'm finally doing something for me. Eric tried one last time. You don't know what you've done, he snarled. There are people behind this who won't like federal attention. You're putting yourself in danger. Agent Alvarez paused. Mr. Hayes, are you threatening a federal witness? I'm warning her about reality. Great, she said. We'll add witness intimidation to your charges. As they led them out, Lily twisted around to look at me. You need us, she cried. I shook my head. I needed you. The day you stood in my hallway and told me I was no use to you anymore. I don't need you now. The law is on my side. And for the first time in my life, so am I.
The months that followed were a strange mix of freedom and forms, bank meetings, court hearings, interviews with lawyers and agents. The government issued a careful public statement. Businessman David Marshall provided extensive cooperation in a long-term federal investigation into financial crimes. They didn't call him a hero. They didn't call him a crook. They called him instrumental. It was enough. The estate was audited, untangled, and finally released to me. Final total, after everything, $33 million, and the house Lily had tried to pry out from under my feet. Lily and Eric, on the advice of their attorneys, pled guilty to reduced charges. They each got 3 years in federal prison. Their children went to live with Eric's sister. I send birthday gifts through her. Nothing that can be pawned or guilt-tripped. Just small reminders that your grandmother exists. She loves you. She's here when you're ready. Lily started writing me letters. First, they were furious. You ruined my life. You chose money over me. Then they were defensive. Eric pressured me. I panicked. I was trying to protect you. Later, they turned apologetic. I see now I was wrong. I was selfish. Please, can we start over? I read the first few, then I put them in a shoebox on the top shelf of my closet. Some nights I take the box down and just hold it. I don't always open it. I've learned that forgiveness is not a coupon other people can redeem whenever they feel like it.
With Mark and Grace's help, I did something I never would have imagined for myself. I created the Helen Marshall Foundation for Elder Protection. We use a portion of my inheritance to help people like me, who are being pressured to sign things, rushed out of houses, or quietly erased from their own lives. We've helped a woman whose grandson tried to remortgage her house without telling her, a widower whose daughter was draining his savings with secret credit cards, and more people just like them who thought they were overreacting until someone finally said, "No, this is wrong." For decades, I was just the wife. Now, attorneys and expensive suits stand when I walk into courtrooms and say, "Yes, Ms. Marshall." It's amazing how quickly people change their tone when they realize the pawn owns the board.
The house looks different now. Some things I kept. David's chair in the living room, his books on the shelves, the dent in the kitchen table from the time he dropped a soup can in 1999 and never fixed it. Other things changed. I painted the walls colors I like. I opened the curtains and let the sun in. I bought towels without asking anyone's opinion. David's old study is now a bright art studio. I set up an easel by the window. I bought real paints, good brushes, thick paper. I started painting again for the first time in 40 years. One of my favorite paintings is a chessboard. On it, pawns lined up at the front, chipped and small. A king tipped over on his side. A queen standing alone at the far edge. Not fragile, not decorative, ready to move in any direction she chooses. My therapist says it's symbolic. I say, I just got tired of cleaning up other people's pieces.
People always ask me, usually in a whisper, "Do you think you'll ever forgive your daughter?" The honest answer? I don't know. I don't get up every morning burning with rage anymore. Anger is heavy. You can only carry it so far before your back gives out. Now, when I think of Lily, I mostly feel sad. Sad that she loved money more than people. Sad that she inherited some of David's sharp mind with none of his loyalty. Sad that she looked at me and saw a problem to solve instead of a person to honor. Sometimes I drive near the prison. I sit in the parking lot and watch people go in and out. I imagine Lily's face if I walked through those doors. Then I hear her voice again. "Mom, go find somewhere else to die. You're no use to us anymore." And I know I'm not ready. Maybe I will be one day. Maybe I won't. Forgiveness doesn't always mean opening the door and inviting the wolf back in. Sometimes it means you put the fire out in your own heart, but you still keep the lock on the gate. If you've listened this far, I want to ask you something. Not about me, about you. Take a quiet look at your own life. Do people treat you like a real, breathing person or like a future payday? Has someone said, "Just sign here, I'll explain later"? Has someone started calling your home our house when our doesn't seem to include you? Are you being told you're confused, too emotional, or not good with money every time you ask a question? If any of that twisted your stomach even a little, I want you to type this in the comments. I'm protecting myself. Not for the algorithm, for you. Because the moment you see those words under your own name, you're admitting something most of us take far too long to learn. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk into a lawyer's office and say, "Explain this to me like I matter." Because you do. If someone calls you paranoid, smile and say, "No, I'm finally awake."
Chess was always David's thing, not mine. He tried to teach me once when Lily was 10. He set up the board, lined the pieces up. "These little ones in front," he said, "they're pawns. People think they're nothing, small, expendable. But if a pawn survives and makes it all the way to the other side of the board, it becomes the queen." I'd laughed. "So if I keep trudging forward, I get to be fabulous?" He'd kissed my forehead. "You already are," he'd said. I didn't feel fabulous at the Sunset Inn with my 2 suitcases and my sad little key card. I felt like a piece knocked off the table. But here's what I know now. Even if other people see you as a pawn, small, quiet, easy to push around, if you keep going, one painful step at a time, if you survive the betrayals, the motel rooms, the signatures forged against you, you can reach the other side of the board. You can become something they never saw coming. You can become the queen, the piece that moves any way she wants to, the piece that everyone has to pay attention to, the piece that protects herself and the ones who deserve it. My name is Helen Marshall. For years, I was just the wife, just the mother. Now I'm the woman who walked out of a motel, walked into a lawyer's office, and walked back into her own house holding the whole board in her hands. If my story gave you even 1 ounce of courage, subscribe, tap the bell for more stories, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if anyone in your life ever looks at you and says, "You're no use to us anymore, go find somewhere else to die," you look them dead in the eye and say, "No, sweetheart, I'm just getting started."